7 countries are in the application process to join the EU. When will they join, and what difficulties do they face? To understand the European Union's future, we need to understand how it expanded in the past. It was founded as an economic pact, the European Economic Community, in 1957, with the Treaty of Rome. The first round of expansion came when Britain finally joined, in 1973, after not one, but 2 vetoes by French President Charles de Gaulle, who had vetoed Britain's entry because he was afraid the country would always look to its empire. Ireland and Denmark, whose economies were closely connected to the UK's, saw the need to join as well. Then came Greece in 1981 and Spain and Portugal in 1986, which caused some concerns over their recent history as dictatorships, with another French president to be François Mitterrand saying in 1977, "One has to be careful not to turn the common market into a free trade zone. Neither Greece nor Spain are in a position to join the community. Accession is neither in their interest nor is it in our interest. Interim steps are desirable, but they were let in as a way to guarantee stability in the south of Europe." In 1993, Europe adopted the Copenhagen criteria, which EU applicants need to fill to join the bloc. These refer to the market economy that EU countries were expected to have, respect for minorities, and rule of law. Then in 1995, Sweden, Finland, and Austria joined. The countries had adopted a position of neutrality in the Cold War, and felt that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, they could finally apply without geopolitical consequences. It would take another decade in 2004 before the EU's next enlargement, which was labeled the Eastern Enlargement, and saw Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Hungary, Slovenia, Cyprus, and Malta join. This was followed by a small enlargement to Bulgaria and Romania in 2007, and to Croatia in 2013. While previous enlargements had seen countries join 2 or 3 at a time, this enlargement saw almost 12 countries enter all at once. The EU saw it as its duty to welcome in its arms the countries that had escaped communism and gave them the funding to rebuild and quick accession. Yet Mitterrand's fears over Spain, Portugal, and Greece's democratic backsliding were turned true for some of the latest EU recruits, the rule of law not having survived after entry into the European Union, which we covered in another video. It is with these historical perspectives that we should understand future EU enlargement. The quick expansion in the 2000s has led to some problems for the EU, and may even undermine its expansion in the future. Several leaders see the EU as having grown too fast, and want to see the EU reform before it is to expand further. This is the case of Emmanuel Macron, another French president, who temporarily vetoed several accession talks to EU application in 2019. The VVD, the Dutch Liberal Party, which is led by Prime Minister Mark Rutte, have put in their 2021 election manifesto that they want to advance prudently with EU enlargement. These developments have put on ice the idea of accession in exchange for reform that had underpinned the EU's Eastern enlargement strategy. While applicants up until 1995 had strong economies, with an asterisk for Greece, those that joined after are the product of decades of communism and authoritarian rule. They needed substantial institutional and economic reform before they satisfied the Copenhagen criteria and could join the EU. This is the case for the EU's remaining applicants, which are for the most part the remaining countries from the Eastern Bloc, in particular the Western Balkans. The candidate countries of Northern Macedonia, Serbia, Montenegro, Albania, and potential candidate countries of Bosnia and Kosovo mostly score poorly on the EU's annual evaluation of the Copenhagen criteria of candidate countries when it comes to rule of law and democracy. Northern Macedonia is arguably the country closest to joining the EU, with the country making good progress to satisfy the Copenhagen criteria. The country continued to implement EU-related reforms throughout the reporting period. Efforts continued to strengthen democracy and the rule of law, including by activating existing checks and balances and through discussions and debates in key policy and legislative issues. Yet Northern Macedonian application is having to overcome hurdles symbolic of the struggles that face future applicants, resolving disputes with neighbors. Northern Macedonia, formerly just Macedonia's application, was first vetoed by Greece over the name of the country, which according to Greece, claimed the legacy of Alexander the Great and the Greek province of Macedonia. Bulgaria is now threatening to veto Northern Macedonia's application over its cultural heritage. Bulgaria considers the Macedonian language to be a dialect of Bulgarian, and has made Northern Macedonia's acceptance of that fact conditional to it lifting its veto. Applicant countries also have to face diverging geopolitical interests within Europe, which are not always in favor of enlargement. Germany is open to new EU members, while France is not, as an increase of the amount of EU members means a decrease of the importance of the Franco-German tandem, the motor of European policymaking, decreasing France's influence in Europe comparatively more than Germany's. Germany, which is an export nation, has in the past pursued Eastern enlargement and partnerships as a way to expand markets for German industry. This makes France wary to allow other countries to join, which would strengthen Germany's hand in Europe to the detriment of France. While the EU has helped resolve disputes between old rivals in Western Europe, the wounds in the Balkans are much more recent and will likely be more difficult to mend in the short term, with the Yugoslav war less than 20 years ago. Serbia, Bosnia, Montenegro, and Albania, which do not all recognize Kosovo as being a country, despite most EU countries having done so, would have to come to political settlements over Kosovo, with each other, but also with existing EU members, particularly Croatia, which was involved in the Yugoslav wars as well. Additionally, democratic backsliding in the region, similar to that seen in Hungary and Poland, particularly in Serbia, means that fulfilling the Copenhagen criteria may be difficult in the short term. The EU's enlargement report on Serbia stated of the country's 2020 election that, while contestants were able to campaign and fundamental freedoms were respected, voter choice was limited by the governing party's overwhelming advantage and the promotion of government policies by most major media outlets. An additional factor in the Balkan region to take into consideration is the Russian government's role, which support authoritarian parties in an effort to delay their entering into the Western sphere, according to an American think tank. Addressing rule of law concerns in those countries will be crucial to their application. Turkey is the last country on our list, and although it had made promising steps in the early 2000s, its application has all but been withdrawn. The country, which had been aligned with the West during the Cold War, and therefore with Europe, is building its own sphere of influence in the Middle East instead. Its foreign policy has become incompatible with the possibility of joining the EU. To conclude, the EU has seen things go badly with the latest round of expansion on both a financial level, with Northern and Western Europe having paid for the East catching up, and on a political level with democratic backsliding. This has made the EU reluctant to rush EU applications once again, and with the quality of applicants both democratically and economically speaking being lacking, the EU is in no hurry to allow them to join. While the ambitions of democratic movements in many of those countries lie in the EU, it may take decades before they're let into the club. But if the EU takes too long, the Western Balkans will fall either into Chinese or Russian arms. This was Into Europe. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for the latest updates and analysis on European news.